A weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And now, without further ado, here's the host of the Hispanic Patriot, Hugo Chavez-Rey. Bring it in, Hugo.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Welcome to our audience out there for another edition of the Hispanic Patriot, a young but energetic podcast where we want to cover topics of importance of the day and talk about how it's affecting our daily lives here as we move forward in Colorado. There's a lot to talk about this week, a lot of items in the news, so we'll get right into it. And the first item on our agenda today is the Trump ballot disqualification trial in Colorado. If you haven't been following that, it is an attempt by a group of it's a liberal group that's funding most of it, but there are some Republican, in quotations, never Trumpers that are jumped on board and would like nothing better than to try to block Trump's name from being on our ballot next year. And to me, that just reeks of desperation because they know they can't beat him at the polls. So now they're going to go to the next step and try to keep him off of the ballot. But one little thing that they're overlooking, and that is, that doesn't stop people from writing his name in. So there's about 75 million to 80 million out there now, in my estimate, that will write his name in if his name is not on their ballot. So they're not going to be able to beat him in that regard. But I think it's despicable that we live in the United States of America and we have groups that falsely accuse an ex-president of doing things that would disqualify him, and their push is under the 14th Amendment. So a Denver judge is hearing this. In fact, one of the things that I read, I believe yesterday, is that the judge was asked to recuse herself, and she's refusing. But surprise, surprise, most of the judges in Colorado are pretty left-leaning, in my opinion, including all the way to the state Supreme Court. So that's not a surprise. But the disqualification trial began on Monday, and their testimony and evidence are presented in the case that invokes the 14th Amendment. To those who don't understand what that is, the 14th Amendment it has language in it that would bar a political candidate from running for office if they have engaged in what's known as an insurrection or sedition. In other words, attempts to overthrow the government. That's basically what that's reserved for. It hasn't been used since the Civil War. It was used against Civil War era federal constitutional amendment that bars people who engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding office. But there are several key unresolved questions. Which actions meet that threshold? Who can enforce it? And what is the burden of proof necessary to bar someone from the ballot under that provision? It's a high bar, but I don't put anything past these liberal courts. And in my opinion, these are kangaroo courts. There's just no other way to describe it. I mean, this has never been done. And what I find very interesting and despicable, really, is that Democrats want to label Republicans in a certain way, while people who are Democrats have done the same and or far worse as any Republican that's been accused, but yet they never say a peep if that person has a D behind their name. So the civil suit was brought by several former and current Colorado Republicans. If that doesn't boil your blood, I don't know what. and including some who are now unaffiliated voters. Oh, what a surprise. And it's spearheaded by citizens. Get this: Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW for short. It's a liberal watchdog group. Now, if that's not hilarious, I don't know what is. Liberals talking about ethics when they support a crook like Biden in the White House is just pathetic. So, some of the 14th Amendment ballot challenges being pursued against Trump uh, in other states are cases in Minnesota and Michigan, assisted by another group called Free Speech for People. So, aren't they really cute about some of the names that they come up with, making them sound so innocuous and so pro freedom and pro democracy and pro justice? Yeah, they're the biggest crooks in the world, in my opinion.
Well, but Trump has a perfect name for that. Like if we have to ride him in, it's easy. Like we might even get more votes that way because you get some at the ballot box. They'll be like Ramasaf. All right, Trump. They know how to spell his name, so that'll be easy.
Trump is a household name.
What really surprised me this week is, aside from this Colorado attack on Trump, the case that he's fighting in Georgia, the ACLU actually stepped in defense of Trump. They actually thought that he was getting an unfair deal, which he is, of course, but I couldn't believe that. That blew my mind.
Well, you know who Alan Dershowitz is, right?
No, maybe.
Professor Alan Dershowitz from Harvard.
Okay.
He's a legal scholar. He's a legal scholar, and the credit I give him is at least he's intellectually honest. And even he says that this is all nothing but a witch hunt, and that they're out to get Trump. And he wrote a book called "Get Trump," and it's about how the left has used the system to go after someone who they despise, which is, of course, Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Never in American political history has a man been so despised by one side.
Right.
And it's all because they're scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because he's done anything nefarious or illegal. They're scared of him because of his following.
Right.
And that's what really drives them and puts them on edge when it comes to doing anything. And they'll do anything. And when I say anything, they will do anything, legal or illegal, to try to get him.
Well, they did. They already had. I mean, they've done.
Well,
that's the thing. What really did conspire back on January 6th. I mean, with all the footage and the proof and evidence that have come out from the January 6th situation that has exonerated Trump, Trump with everything, and also just the suspect of foul play and people. You see the footage of people telling the cops, like, "Hey, look, this he needs medical assistance. Like, let's help here." I mean, there was so much, like weird stuff that happened that day to where that has come out now. So you're either paying attention or your head's under a rock and you're in denial. And I think a lot of Democrats, like Mr. Dershowitz, are honest people. I mean, we got idiots on both sides, and then we have a lot of really honest, wonderful Americans on both sides.
Yep.
And I think people are starting to wake up. And I mean, look at the fruit. Again, it comes back. The Bible says, "By the fruits you will know them." So look at the fruit. Look at our economy. Look at the condition of our country while Trump was in office, and look at it now. Our country's in shambles.
Yep.
We are on life support. So the media could tell me everything they want, but when my student loan payments have literally doubled, in the past year and a half, whatever it's been, and everything else, and like everybody's hurting. It's like, come on, pay attention. This isn't a right and left thing anymore. This is, do you want to live free or not? Do you want to go under the Communist Party of China? Like, do you want to secede our freedom and republic to one world order, or do you want to keep
Well,
being a free nation?
the one thing that I will leave this topic with, and that is to the audience. I don't really necessarily care which side of the fence you're on, but if you're on the side that's believing all these lies that the left has put out about this January 6th insurrection and what allegedly Donald Trump incited, go and listen to the speech and read this transcript. And if you can come up with one word that he said that would prove that he was inciting them to go and riot, then I want you to call me personally or text me or email me and show me where you believe that you saw that, because there isn't any.
Right. And the
The
burden
key
of proof
phrase,
lies. Yeah.
the key phrase in his speech was, "Now you can march peacefully and let your uh, the way I can't, I'm paraphrasing, but let your feelings be known at the Capitol." He says, "You will go and march peacefully." He
Mhm.
didn't say go and storm the Capitol and kill whoever's in your way, or you know attack anybody. He said, peacefully demonstrate your support of this topic.
Mhm.
Basically, is what he said. So they cannot use that, and anybody that is going to use that is just beyond the pale. So we're going to follow this as it goes along. There's I think they're in day 4 right now of the trial here in Colorado. We'll see if this judge is fair, unbiased. She already dismissed a dismissal request by one of Trump's attorneys, who is the former Attorney General of the state of Colorado, Scott Gessler. I'm sorry, Secretary of State. He was Secretary of State here in Colorado, and he put forth a motion to dismiss the case, and the judge rejected it. But she says she wants to hear all the evidence. So we're going to see. The decision is expected by the end of the month, because uh, soon after that, the ballots have to be certified. And of course, Jenna Griswold has her hands all over this,
Mm.
and she would like nothing better than to disqualify Trump from the ballot in Colorado. But in my opinion, they're going to reap the whirlwind if they think that if they disqualify him from the ballot, that's going to keep anybody from voting for him. In
Yeah.
fact, I would suggest that he's probably going to get more votes in Colorado if he's disqualified.
Well, it keeps backfiring. It's like
Yep.
you
They
put
don't.
the indictments on them, throw them in jail, do whatever you want. It's just going to keep backfiring. The more they single Trump out, the more it's going to backfire. And like the harder they squeeze, the more sand slips through their fingers. That's just,
Yep.
people aren't stupid. People can sniff out, corruption and lies, and to a certain, at a certain point. And it's up until this point it's been subtle, but up until 2 years ago it was subtle, and now it's just, like I said, past shows, tentacles are out and you can see them. What's that
Yeah.
Marvel, um what's the bad side with the octopus and the tentacles? Hydra,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
Hydra. That's it. That's the deep state, that we're seeing. It's Hydra. They're all
Yep.
and they're all connected, the China, Russia, Hydra. Like, there you go. So
Yep.
it's
So anyway, we're going to move on to our next topic right now, and that is Representative Ken Buck announcing that he's not going to run for reelection. And I posted on Facebook that I think he read the handwriting on the wall, because the wolves were out to get him in the upcoming primary, and he preferred not to be embarrassed. Now, of course, he came out and made some ridiculous statement about one of the reasons that he was not running was because he was citing Republicans self-serving lies. That's the direct quote. Um, I don't know what he's been drinking or what they fed him over there in the swamp, but he has turned into a complete left winger, in my opinion. And of course, the rumors are out there that he's got a cushy job at CNN awaiting for him, and I'm sure they're going to pay him big bucks because they love Republicans who turn on their own, and that describes Ken Buck to a T. But so apparently, we won't have to worry about having the fight in the primary coming up to unseat him now that he's dropped out and said he's not going to run. Now, in the back of my mind, I have a little bit of a doubt. I don't trust what he says, but hopefully he will stick to his word and not run. And in retrospect, or not in retrospect, but in relation to that, I have now learned just today. Of course, we had Kent Lisey last week, who is running for that seat, and now I understand there's like 8 to 10 more candidates that are thinking or potentially going to run for that seat. So here we go again. Instead of uniting behind one candidate, this party now wants to create another circus and spend all this energy between all these candidates. I could see 2 or 3, but 8 to 10 and more possibly. That's just a joke. And
Well, he's gonna probably get somebody to come up and fill his shoes and endorse him, right?
I'm sure he's encouraged somebody. There was one name that came up, and that's George Brockler. Mm. You know who George Brockler is?
No.
He was the 18th Judicial District Attorney for several years. He ran for Attorney General here in Colorado and lost. He's got his own radio show now on is it KOA or no, not KOA, KHOW, in the morning from like 7 to 10, something like that. He's an attorney, practicing attorney, but he's got that radio show, and he has alienated a lot of people because he's taken positions that were a lot like Ken Buck's. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of those that Ken Buck might reach out to and ask and try to encourage to run. But we'll see. We'll see what the field brings. I'm keeping an eye on that to see who announces, and I'm going to be talking to some folks this Saturday night at the annual Colorado GOP Centennial Dinner, where Carrie Lake is going to be the keynote speaker. I'm excited to see her, and some other Republican speakers are going to be there as well. But that's the annual dinner for the state party, and I'm sure all the players, all the movers, shakers are going to be there. So I'll keep my ears open to what's going on, and I'll come back and report what I find out. So that's one of the big news items. A lot of people on Facebook are happy that we're not going to have this dogfight with Ken Buck. So now we have to shift focus and see, which candidates are going to be legit contenders for that seat and coming up in the primary. So we'll keep an eye on
Trent Lisey.
Trent Lisey.
Trent Lisey. We had him on last week. Go check out our last week's episode if you didn't see it.
Well, we'll have some other. I'm only going to invite what I consider to be viable candidates. And from the list that I saw earlier today, I would say there's maybe 3 that are good candidates and viable. So we'll have them on, and we'll give everybody a fair shot. So we'll move on from that topic. Just a quick reminder, on Prop HH. Election night is this coming Tuesday, November the 7th. So make sure you go out. If you haven't already filled out your ballot and turned it in, make sure you go and vote on election day. Vote no on Prop HH and II, and definitely vote in your school board elections in your districts, because there's a lot of school boards up for grabs, and hopefully we can turn some of those school boards towards conservative leaders rather than the ones that control these teachers union darlings that are controlling a lot of our school boards around the state and causing great damage. So
remember, no on HH. Just to be clear, no on
HH and II, both of those, big time no. All right. Now we're going to turn into a serious topic, what I consider very serious, and that is the rise of anti-Semitism in America. According to data that I read yesterday, there has been a 388% rise in anti-Semitism in America.
Gosh.
And a lot of it is coming from prominent college campuses around the country. It's despicable. You know, all you have to do is read some history and talk about the early 1930s in Germany to know what this means. This is dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
There's a young student, here it is. It's a young student from Cornell that was arrested. I don't know if you heard about that. He was arrested for encouraging people to go out and kill Jews, including women and children. And so his threats on social media have been taken seriously, and he's been arrested and now faces charges of terrorism. It says that the Department of Justice announced on Tuesday it had a suspect, a 21-year-old Patrick Dye, who is a junior at Cornell, in custody for allegedly posting about threatening to stab and slit the throat of Jewish males, to rape Jewish women and throw them off a cliff, and to behead any Jewish babies, according to the press release. This is a college student in America at a prominent university. And you think that the administration at Cornell would vehemently condemn such activity?
How do they respond? Obviously, they're putting them up on charges, right?
Silence is deafening when it comes to the administration. But there was it went on to say the court documents show numerous posts allegedly made by Dye where he allegedly used usernames like Hamas fighter, Jew evil, and glorious Hamas in his postings. So it says right here that a student was willing to make comments such as these, shows that Jew hatred can be anywhere and everywhere, even among our fellow students. This is a Cornell student, Nathaniel Shapiro. She's a Jewish student at Cornell. And it's scary to think that people around you, especially at an Ivy League school, people take pride in being well educated and knowing the facts of what's going on, are believing in that. There's just no words. So there's an uproar about that. We're going to see what's going on, but the university, it says upon discovering that the suspect was in fact a fellow student at Cornell rather than an anonymous individual unaffiliated with the university, the situation took on a heightened sense of reality. It's stark acknowledgement that harmful ideologies and anti-Semitic rhetoric persist and spread. This includes the propagation of untruths and denial of atrocities, the tolerance of hate speech under the guise of free speech, the repetition of propaganda by some professors, and the falsehood that the anti-Zionism is anything other than a form of hatred against the Jewish community.
Right. This is the evil that we need to be putting our energy towards exposing and prosecuting. These are death threats. I mean,
Yeah.
Here we are looking at Trump, right? Like, distract, disorient, divide. Come on, you know, like it's just unbelievable.
It says that the Cornell University administration is cooperating with law enforcement, so at least we'll give them that. But they shouldn't be tolerating these hate groups doing any kind of demonstrations on their campus. They wouldn't allow the KKK to come on their campus uh, and belittle black people or people that come on there and threaten to kill Hispanics or any other racial group or even let's say the LGBTQ. What if some Muslims came on campus and said that they wanted to behead some gay people? Do you think they'd put up with that? No, but for some reason, Jews are fair game, and that's despicable to me. And I'm hoping that this is going to awaken this country to the hatred that's out there, because it has to be met head on and in no uncertain terms. This is just despicable.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And we need to be united on this, like right, left, whatever. We need this is something we need to be united on.
yeah,
This is not tolerable.
But that's what the problem is. You have these indoctrinated and or what I consider actual plants by radical Islam groups that have put these individuals in these colleges and universities, and they've been successful in garnering support for their propaganda and their lies against a section of our population, which just happens to be Jewish. And they have this, this basically, in a lot of cases, unopposed opportunity to demonstrate on campuses and spew propaganda and lies and just create more hatred for people that are weak-minded that just go along and follow whatever some nut job wants to put out there and then take it as factual truth. So let's pray for the Jewish population in our country, but let's pray that law-abiding Americans are going to take this for what it is, and that is an alarm. It is a strong alarm for what's going on around the world, but in particular, this has no place in the United States of America, in my opinion.
Right.
So,
well, these higher, institutions, they're shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, look at what Harvard did. All of their multi-billionaire donors, or many of them, pulled out. They stopped funding them. A lot of their alumni, because they're Jewish. I mean, they're Jewish people are 2% of the world's population. They hold the majority of the Nobel Peace Prizes, Oscars. I mean, some of the highest. They're extremely gifted, and they run Hollywood. It's the music industry, all of it. They're extraordinarily gifted, and so much money that
that's why they're hated so much, because they think that they've done it nefariously, but no, they're just
they're gifted.
They're gifted. They've done it the American way, and they shouldn't be punished for it or ostracized for it. They should be applauded. And if they have the same opportunity as anybody else could do what they're doing, but no, they prefer to be anti-Semitic and create all this hate because they think that this is some nefarious movement that is out to rule the world, and it's ridiculous. So we'll keep an eye on that, but pray for, especially Jewish students at these universities. Pray that this thing doesn't get out of hand, but I have a feeling that this is going to be a tremendous backlash against some of these schools if they don't stand up and denounce this activity on their campuses. Um, and then we have our illustrious President Biden calling for a pause in Israeli strikes under the guise of humanitarian.
Hmm.
Can you? Oh my God! Here's here's something that John Kirby, who is at Homeland Security, said. He says President Biden would veto Israel only supplemental package if passed by Congress. So there's an argument about in our halls of Congress about why we're sending all these billions of dollars to Ukraine and a measly 14 billion to
Israel,
one
right?
to Israel, who is under much greater threat.
Doesn't make sense.
Uh, so the bill would offset the aid to Israel by taking away funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. That's a joke. Specifically targeting the 80 billion given to the IRS. So what the Republicans want to do is they want to take that money that was earmarked for the IRS to hire 84,000 new IRS agents, like that's what we need, and send it to Israel. So, and of course, the Biden administration doesn't want anything to do with that. No. The White House said it strongly opposes House passage of the Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations Act 2024. So that just goes to show you Biden wants to send money to those that are giving him kickbacks, and that's Ukraine and China, among others.
30% of the money we send to Ukraine actually reaches the lines, the the actual defense. And I'm skeptical if even that much.
I'm skeptical that even that. One of the articles I read just the other day shows that there are, I don't know, hundreds or dozens of officials in Ukraine that have absconded already with millions of dollars. They're pocketing it and they're stashing it away for their own personal use. So all we're doing is funding corruption is basically what we're doing with the money. And that goes all the way to the top. That president there to me is a joke. He's a comedian that they elected as president. And we've got a senile fool that we elected as president. So I guess we're even. I don't know. But this is the kind of stuff that's going on in the Congress. I'm glad to see that we have a strong Speaker of the House now that's not going to stand for any of the nonsense. And we got a little more information about our new Speaker, Mike Johnson, that we're going to talk about that is really interesting. And that is, we'll get segue right into that because Mike Johnson was on Hannity the other night. And of course, the media is attacking him relentlessly because he's a man of faith. And he dared quote the Bible in his speech and is unabashedly not going to stand down when it comes to speaking about his faith. So the media is after him. They're calling him all kinds of names and trying to paint him as some sort of demagogue and theocrat, and saying that mocking him, saying that he said that his being elected as House Speaker is God's rule, God's plan, and uh, you know, I believe it's God's plan, or it wouldn't have happened.
All right.
So basically, this latest attack has to do with his finances, and here's what the hullabaloo is about. Speaker Johnson lives paycheck to paycheck, which makes him relatable to most Americans. Now, the media is mocking him because uh, he hasn't disclosed a lot of his bank accounts and things of that nature, but there's a rule about disclosure of bank accounts for elected officials, and it has to meet a certain threshold before it's reportable. So uh, the thought is that he has bank accounts, of course, but they're so small that they fall below the threshold of having to report him, which means he's basically living paycheck to paycheck like most Americans, and that's what that's what's irking the media and the left, and they're so concerned about Mike Johnson not disclosing his bank account, but they're okay with uh, Biden and his family enriching themselves through illegal activity with China, Ukraine, Russia, and other uh, despots around the world. So basically, you know, the facts are these. Over the course of 7 years, Johnson has never reported a checking or savings account in his name, nor in the name of his wife or any of his children, disclosures show. In fact, he doesn't appear to have money stashed in any investments, with his latest filing covering 2022, showing no assets whatsoever. Daily Beast senior political reporter Roger Sollenberger wrote. Of course, it's unlikely Johnson doesn't actually have a bank account. What's more likely is Johnson lives paycheck to paycheck, so much so that he doesn't have enough money in his bank account to trigger the checking account disclosure rules for members of Congress. Now, how refreshing is that? If that's not relatable to the average American, I don't know what is. So, this is, you know, the Daily Beast, which is a left wing rag, is furious that Speaker Johnson isn't rich or corrupt or rich from being corrupt. He doesn't have shady business deals. He
All right.
doesn't trade stocks as a congressman. And more importantly, he doesn't have any connection to foreign governments. What a
Terrible. Well, yeah, and this article highlights something important to remember. Pelosi, her stock trades completely outperforming the S&P year after year while buying and selling companies that benefited from
mm-hmm.
bills passed in the House. I mean, you just all you got to do is open read a little bit. Follow the money. Look at Obama's one of the richest ex-presidents out there, and
Yeah.
what else has he done? What book deals? Get
Mm-hmm.
out of here. He came out of the White House loaded, and he's making hand over fist right now. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he owns three
Trump
multi-million dollar
Trump gave
mansions.
back his White House paycheck. Trump
Yep.
did not take it. He donated it. He doesn't need it. This is why we need Trump, because he's not buyable. He doesn't need anybody's money. He's not in anybody's pocket. I mean, it's
Well, that's what they hate. So
right.
basically, the old adage that the left hates people that, or they accuse people on the right of doing things that they themselves are doing. That's that's the that's the modus operandi for the left. Anytime you see a lefty get up and start spewing nonsense about somebody on the right, you can rest assured that they're guilty of what they're accusing the guy on the right of doing. And that's exactly what's going on with, of course, with Trump and Biden. I mean, Biden is one of the, if he's not the most corrupt president in history, I don't know who is.
Well, and just think for a second, like, regardless of where you stand, think for a second, like, what if this is true? Okay. What if we actually are telling the truth? What if January 6th was set up? What if that election was rigged? And what if our current administration is in cahoots with deep state, with one world government? What if all the stuff that us crazy right wingers are talking about is true? Like, wouldn't you at least want to know? You know, wouldn't you at least want to know that you're being lied to, that you're being robbed, that every American could have an extra $5,000 plus in their bank account right now with all the money that we're sending to Ukraine that's lining these people's pockets? Like, wouldn't you want to know? I mean, open your eyes, pay attention. And again, buy the fruits. Look at the fruit. A nation groans under a wicked leader.
Well,
but it rejoices under righteousness.
There's people that are ideologues, and an ideologue will never be convinced that anything from the other side is true.
Well, we're too loyal to party, and that's the thing. Like, one thing I appreciate about this show is, I know you've been a part of the Republican Party, and I always have too. I've always voted Republican, but I mean, we're seekers of truth. Show me the truth, and if you make a good argument, I'll listen. But show me the fruit of, look at the fruit of what's coming out of the people in power right now. Look at the fruit. Young men don't know how to be young men. Young women don't know how to be young women. People are losing their damn minds. We're like, we just don't know left from right and up from down anymore. We don't know what truth and false is. We call evil good and good evil. Like, pay attention. Look at, everybody's suffering, and you have to follow the money. The truth will come out, and it is coming out. Pay attention. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Well, that's what's going on with Biden and his. He's hiding. He's trying to hide it very carefully. I don't think he's pro-Israel at all. I believe that he's trying to hide behind that, and he says certain things, but when it comes to actual aid and or doing anything to help protect, have you heard him come on national TV and condemn these anti-Semitic activities? I haven't. A good president would come before the nation and say, "This is wrong. You need to stop it, and we're going to use the full weight of the Department of Justice to go after people that are going to promote this type of hatred against a certain sector of people." If he came out and said that, I would applaud that. But he's not, because his side of the fence is not about trying to.
So he's wavering now. He's wavering on all those wonderful speeches that he gave, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, those aren't his words. First of all, let's understand that.
Yeah,
but he delivers them as adeptly as he's capable, which is not very capable at all. But we need to keep an eye on that. Now, this other story really kind of caught me by surprise.
Which one are we looking at?
The Trump wins major home state endorsement in snub to DeSantis. So the state of Florida has endorsed President Trump in the presidential race over their own governor. So it says, when reached for comment, DeSantis' campaign told Fox News that the governor has more endorsements from state legislators than the former president in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. But basically, it says here, Fox News confirmed Thursday that Senator Rick Scott is throwing his support behind Trump in what could be described as a huge snub to DeSantis, who remains Trump's primary rival in the Republican nomination race. He also has the support of almost all Florida elected officials because he worked with them to deliver historic results for the conservative movement. The governor will win his home state because Floridians want to see a fighter who will bring the same type of results oriented. I I take exception with that. I don't think they've talked to the Cuban population in Florida. I th- the Cuban population is solidly behind President Trump,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as other Hispanics and a lot of black uh, voters as well. So,
Why doesn't DeSantis just go on the VP ticket? I do not understand that. Why did he decide to oppose Trump instead
uh,
of?
he he burned those bridges, and I
Yeah, I
don't think.
know he has
And plus,
now.
you can't. The other issue that was brought up as well is you. There's never been, and it's not even smart to have uh, the ticket be from the same state. You always have. You
Oh,
always have.
Trump's originally Florida, huh? Okay.
Well, he's residing in Florida now, so he's
Right. Yeah.
considered a
Mar-a-Lago.
Floridian. So you couldn't have, and you shouldn't have, a VP from the same state. So you're going to have. I got my ideas. I won't talk about them now, uh, but DeSantis basically didn't follow advice, and that was basically he was given advice by a lot of top Republican officials that not to challenge Trump in this cycle, to wait, finish his term out as Florida governor, and then run in 2028.
Hmm.
That would have been the correct thing to do, and I would have applauded that. And he would have had tons of support behind Trump's next term. And he he chose to buck the horse, so to speak, and go after the big prize. Well, as of right now, in Iowa, which is the first caucus that's coming up, Trump is running around 43%, and DeSantis is at 16%.
Hmm.
So, uh, you know, he can throw numbers up about elected officials in Florida and whatever. They're not the ones that are going to be the voters. The voters are the voters in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. And he DeSantis has about a snowball's hell chance in hell of beating Trump in those three states. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I like DeSantis, I think he's a good governor and he's done a lot of good things. I think this is one of his huge mistakes that he'll regret for a long time.
Well, that's the problem. He's a warrior, and I do too. I like him a lot. I have tons of respect for the man, but he came out just like you said, like a bull in a china shop. Like
Mm-hmm.
we saw that in the debates. It's just like, oh man, we don't need a hothead. Like we
Yep.
don't need someone just with their finger on the button. Like And anyways, yeah,
And
he's
he
done a lot of good for sure,
and
but
I
I
mean
don't know.
he's a
I don't
veteran. He's
understand
a
that.
veteran, and
Yeah.
he's got a lot on the table. But again, he should not have run in this race. That's just my opinion.
Right.
A lot
I think that's the consensus for sure.
people can differ with me, and I've got friends who differ with me on that. They think that
Well, there's a lot of people that just want anybody but Trump. But it's like, look what happened. I mean, there's been prophecies and things and a lot of, a lot of stuff
yeah,
tying Trump and Obama to, scriptural end times prophecies, things like that. And I don't know where I believe, but I believe Trump's God's man on this for sure. And I mean, if anybody, when he lost that last election, everybody's like, oh my gosh. And all the, people against the faith-based community saying, yeah, look at all you idiots. You had your problem. Well, guess what? It's happening, like God's working out his plan. And
yeah.
it's funny. It's funny seeing it all, how he's coming back,
Well,
that's
the
it's
one of the things that uh, you mentioned, there's people who want anybody but Trump, and I've got friends that are like that, and I just posed a simple question to them. I said, first of all, look at the polls and tell me what kind of chance he has to beat Trump in the primaries. And he doesn't. He doesn't have a realistic chance. I mean, I guess anything's possible. You know, miracles do and can and do happen, but
Right.
I don't see it. And then my next question to them is, okay, what are you going to do when Trump is the nominee? Are you going to vote for the Democrat?
Right.
And their answer is always no.
Right.
So I say, well, why are you putting your energy into someone who doesn't have a shot at defeating him just because you think you don't want Trump reelected?
I don't understand. Like, now, why do people hate Trump so much? Like, what are the valid reasons? Why do they?
Well, they think he's toxic. That's their big comeback. He's toxic.
Okay.
Okay, he's toxic. So we've got a world in turmoil now. But guess what? We don't have mean tweets.
Mm-hmm.
So people prefer a world upside down and on the brink of World War III to someone who may not be the most couth or the most aplomb at delivering a message or whatever. I don't care about the minutia. I care about the accomplishments, and that's what I've been saying all along. You cannot argue with his track record as president, one of the best in history. And if you deny that, then you're just a flat out liar. That's all, in my opinion, because there's absolutely no proof that you can show me that he's not one of the best presidents we've ever had when it comes to performance in the office.
Right.
Okay.
Look at the fruit. Like I said,
that's it. That's all we should be looking at is let's look at the accomplishments and what he's capable of doing and what he does for the nation. He makes the nation strong. Our enemies fear him, which is what you want in a president.
Mm-hmm.
You think that our enemies fear Biden?
Putin has flat out said he has no respect for our current president.
He's a joke. He's a joke. And everybody knows it. He went to Israel and even some of the Arab leaders refused to meet with him. You think they would have done that with Trump?
Right.
No.
There's no way we would be nowhere from. But again, I mean, putting a bow on this whole thing, I truly do believe like we had it good, but we were, we're in this mess for a reason. We are in this mess because America got complacent, spoiled, fat. And what happens when a culture gets fat and spoiled?
Well,
they get sour and bitter and
we turned away from God as a nation.
And so this dark cloud is exposing what has been going on for decades. This deep state runs across party lines. We've had corrupt Republican presidents too. And this whole thing that's been going on has been going on for years. And now it's all exposed. So guess what? I think we're going to come out of this with a renewed vigor, a renewed American spirit. That Declaration of Independence, that our Constitution, those documents have stood up against the greatest evils in the world, and they're going to continue to do so. What our founding fathers laid down will continue to do so. The American spirit, the eagle, the bald eagle, will not die so easily. And this is just exposing it. This is kicking awake the sleeping giant of American patriotism. And you see it all over social media. So thank God it happened. I thank God. Like, count it all joy when you face various trials, because they produce hope. They produce peace. They produce faith. Hard times produce good people, strong people. So,
yep.
Yep. It's good. It's good. I mean, I'm hopeful. That's why. Like you said, God puts people in. He puts kings in and he removes them. It's all by his hand, and it's all according to his plan. So
I want to close with this story about a Democrat. And this is a positive story. And this is just to show that I'm not a Democrat hater. I just hate the liars and the despots and the propagandists and those that hate America. But in this case, I'm going to give props to New York City Mayor Adams for speaking out against anti-Semitism. And in his speech, he delivered heartfelt remarks showing strong support for the city's Jewish community and Israel after the deadly terror attacks on October 7th.
Yeah.
Speaking at a New York Stands with Israel rally on Tuesday, Adams said, "We are not all right." After the world witnessed the atrocities committed by Hamas in southern Israel, where terrorists committed murder, rape, torture, and kidnappings and boastfully posted their crimes on social media. "We are not all right when we see young girls pulled from their home and dragged through the streets," Adams said to the crowd who had gathered to express solidarity with Israel. "We are not all right when we see grandmothers being pulled away from their homes and children shot in front of their families. We are not all right when right here in the city of New York you have those who celebrate at the same time when the devastation is taking place in our city. We are not all right when Hamas believes that they are fighting on behalf of something and their destructive, despicable action that carried out. We are not all right when we still have hostages who have not come home to their families. We are not all right, and we're not going to say we have a stiff upper lip and act like everything is fine. Everything is not fine. Israel has a right to defend itself, and that's the right that we know." So I want to give props to the mayor for his statements and his strong support of Israel. I wish more elected officials had the guts to say what he just said. And so for that, I'm going to give the Hispanic Patriot Prop Award for the week to a Democrat for
Yeah.
for speaking the truth and not being afraid of the backlash. As far as I know, he hasn't gotten any backlash, but I'm sure there's some left-wing media out there mocking him or trying to marginalize him for what he said.
Yeah, I like him. He's a God-fearing man.
So that's a good segue to close out on. I want to close out on this one quote that I heard, and you're not going to believe who this quote is from, but it's somebody we all know, and that's, "We can't just hope for a brighter day. We have to work for a brighter day. Love too often gets buried in a world of hurt and fear, and we have to work to dig it out so we can share it with our family, our friends, and our neighbors." Dolly Parton. Good old Dolly Parton. She has
Bipartisan Parton.
yeah,
She's funny. I like her.
Dolly's
Who doesn't love Dolly Parton?
Dolly's got a good heart.
Mhm.
She's definitely one of the good ones. I don't always agree with what she stands with, but for the most part, she's okay.
Yeah.
But that's it for tonight, folks. We've covered a lot. Hopefully, we've inspired you to dig deeper in some of these topics. And don't just sit there and take my word for anything. Do some research. Learn. Definitely don't listen to the media. Learn to do your own research and believe with your own eyes what you find, and you will be much better informed for it if you do that. So, any closing words, Peter?
No, that was great. I mean, yep. Seek
Okay.
after truth.
All right. So we will see you again next week. Hopefully, we'll have a guest. I'm working on some potential guests, but stay informed. We want to send blessings to you. We got Thanksgiving coming up. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving for a lot of people. Not so great for some, but we want to pray for those in Israel and those in harm's way, and especially for our Jewish community here in America. So God bless you. God bless the state of Colorado, and God bless America.